Part 31. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 302. 301 Alchemy. For a novice, the biggest obstacle is that not so much alchemy material wastes you. Think of those heavenly treasures, especially the high-end elixir. Among them, there are hundreds of thousands of spirit stones. Even the ordinary Xianxian family can't be cultivated. Therefore, many Xianxian families can't even refine the chemical chemistry, so this is also a fixed supply target of the Yi family. But for Yekong, this problem is not a problem. He has a lot of land. With this thing, how much spirit grass does it take? The key is the seed or root system. He will soon be able to cultivate a basket of spirit grass, even if it is thousands of years old. There is one more thing to say. There is another reason that restricts alchemy, that is fire. Without a suitable fire, the success rate of alchemy and the quality of the alchemy will be greatly reduced, so the spiritual medicine mountain will put the martial arts on that volcano. There is no need to worry about this. Yekong has the cold fire in the north of Kangbei. This scarce kind of fire is the holy thing of refining elixir. Of course, there is no use if there is fire, but also the master of the alchemy to grasp the fire. If the fire is not good, the elixir will bake. If the fire is small, it will not work. If you miss the time when the fire is out, the waste will come out. The flame is unstable. Even more so, accidentally fry. Yekong would like to thank the ancestor Huangquan here. If he hadn't been forced to practice attribute control for 3 months outside the southern capital by the ancestor Huangquan, now he would not be able to control the cold in Kangbei. Once, ancestor, when did you wake up? Yekong took out the fire and water calabash, and remembered the ancestor Huangquan again. If the old boy knew that he had found a furnace tripod for him, he didn't know how happy he would be. If he knew again, he was already his cheap dad, haha, that guy would definitely jump out and curse. Yekong smiled, abandoned his thoughts, and placed the water fire gourd on the coffee table in front of him, and then placed the various necessary herbs next to each other in turn. Well, preparations are ready to start alchemy. Yekong sat down cross-legged and carefully let the fire and fire gourd release a ray of flame. As soon as the white frost-like flame came out, the air in the entire formation instantly decreased. The cold fire in Kangbei was indeed amazing. Cold power. Yekong used the spirit to control the water and fire gourds to make the fire smaller, and it wasn't until the white flame stabilized into a small bunch that Yekong began to refine. Chiba grass, spirit beast meat, low-grade low-end spirit beast dan. Throw these auxiliary materials into the white flame in order, and soon they will be melted. These are auxiliary materials, so it is not required to separately refine them. The chives melted into a turquoise liquid, and the flesh of the spirit beast turned into a red mud. After the white low-level spirit beast was burned, black liquid flowed out. Several colors are mixed together and blend with each other, and it seems to be mixed with chocolates of various colors. After burning for a while, the colors have been stirred together, and you can't distinguish between you and me, but as the temperature rises, the surface of the liquid starts to bubble, and small particles are pulled out of the bubbles. Yekong raised his hands, his index finger ejected quickly, and a blast of wind shot out, ejecting the impurities from the liquid medicine. Yekong's move was also learned from Huangquan's ancestors. That was how Huangquan's ancestors refined Pegadon. At that time, Yekong was particularly envious and learned a lot, so he is now very skilled in movement, timing, strength, and direction, just right. Refined auxiliary materials, that is the main material. Yekong packed the auxiliary materials in a porcelain bottle, so he carefully threw a plant of sage. Those kinds of auxiliary materials are very cheap. The low-grade low-end netten is the most trashy netten, only 30 spirit stones. The spirit beast meat is cheaper. 5 spirit stones bought a large Buddha. Nothing to say, there are 2 spirit stones, one with thousands of leaves, but only 10 or more are used each time. The most expensive is the main material, only 8 derma stones. If any master of alchemy knows that the kid first practiced with such expensive materials, he will definitely scold his feet and scold them, which is too extravagant. Such a waste. After a while, the main material was refined, and Yekong took out the auxiliary material again, and fused it in the flame. According to the experience of Lianrulan, the fusion of main and auxiliary materials is the first obstacle for novice alchemists. However, Yekong was very lucky. The first fusion was successful. An hour later, a prototype of a green elixir appeared. With the first successful experience, Yekong made persistent efforts, prepared 4 more, and made up 5 more for the next step of baking and refining in a Dan furnace. However, it was not so good for the next time. 4 of them were frustrated at the merging level, and they could not be merged, resulting in the waste of all the main and auxiliary materials. Yekong Salix Diffusa has only prepared 10 plants in total, and now there are 5 plants left. He didn't dare to continue anymore, took a breath, and closed his eyes to recall the first 5 fusion processes. After an hour of thinking, Yekong felt that the reason for the failure of the last 4 times was that the timing of putting the auxiliary material was wrong, and the firing time of the main material was too long, which caused the auxiliary material to be thrown in and could not be combined with the main material. Find the reason. Yekong continues to work. Take out 4 wormwood plants, leaving only the most neat and tidy plant for planting. Although the reason is found, the timing to put in the auxiliary materials is really not sure. If you put it in early, you must rely on the alchemist to watch the color of the main material solution. This is an unclear thing and you must have experience. Only okay. This alchemy is really not the work of the poor. A few hours later, the materials of nearly 9,000 spirit stones were finally merged successfully, but there were only 2 prototypes of elixir. This has not been successful yet. It can be said that it is still early. This first step is the simplest. Yekong has already wasted 70% of the material. Looking at the 2 prototypes, Yekong felt quite lucky. There was no annihilation by the entire army. Regardless of it, put it in the Dan furnace. The Dan furnace is a brass Dan furnace and looks pretty good. But there are no additional effects, such as improving Dan's success rate. However, the Dan furnace with these effects is expensive. Even if it increases the success rate by 1%, it is too expensive. Yekong didn't mind. He had lucky charms, as long as there was a lucky charm groove on the furnace. He paid attention to the Dan furnace, so he bought this antique Dan furnace. Yekong can only open the first page of the next high-level spell, so there are no 2 high-level lucky charms, that is, 10%, so I will use them. Yekong released the brass Dan furnace. The Dan furnace immediately became the size of the 8 immortals table. It was golden yellow. The furnace handle was painted with dragons and phoenixes. Those are all decorative and not useful. Well, if you have time to carve dragons and draw phoenixes, you might as well open 2 more lucky charm slots on the furnace. Flashy Yekong cursed in a fit of temper. To the reader. Xiaoman's feature Festival of the Stars, the god of cultivation of the immortals, is on the Xianxian channel in the Book City. Taoists should support it. Don't make Xiaoman too ugly. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 303. 3002 Alchemy. In fact, there can only be 1 slot for a Dan furnace. If you open more than 10 slots, it will not work. Otherwise, if you open 10 slots and post a 100% success sign on each, then you are 100% successful. Alchemy is not so easy and not so good. Put the water fire gourd under the Dan furnace, and do not rush into fire. First open the Dan furnace, put the pour 2 pills of the elixir in it, then take out a lucky charm and paste it in the groove, then Yekong releases the cold fire in the water and fire gourd, and starts the most important part of alchemy, baking. There is a process in this part. The time is determined according to the elixir in the furnace. 2 elixir or high-level elixir takes a whole day. Oh, it's so cold inside. Xianxia started to walk out. The cold was really severe. He was so cold that a monk shrank, and the mortal was afraid that it would freeze for a while. Although the cold fire was cold, Ecchi was not fully open, and the 2 levels of Dongfu and the medicine garden were banned, so no one was afraid of it. Ecchi was Yun Fuzong, who returned at noon, and waited for the 2 girls to leave, that is, around 2 in the afternoon. But now he came out and found that the moon was about to fall, and a new day was about to begin. 1 afternoon and 1 night just passed. The time passed so fast. Fortunately, the monks don't need to sleep. Otherwise, there's not enough time to do something. Ecchi sighed, and began to cultivate again. This time he was going to cultivate some sedge plants. Thinking of Zhonghui's materials, he went back to Dongfu and took out a small medicine tincture. When I came to the tree thorns, Ecchi squatted down and carefully opened the soil. The roots of the wood thorns are still very deep and well developed. Think about it, any plant has a history of hundreds of years. Can the root system be underdeveloped? Even if you are a human, your hair will grow longer if you do cut it for a while. Of course, some buddies have to be righteous and say that the hair under Lao Tzu has never been ignored, nor has it grown. Xiaoman just made an analogy, so he didn't raise the bar. Girl's long hair, some are too long, at the end it will wither and split into yellow. The plant roots are the same, the farther away, the worse the vitality, so the leaves are cut in the middle, presumably so many roots, lest this do not die. Taking the root system, Ecchi buried the soil surface again, saving the BT from seeing nonsense. For this insignificant rhizome, she can die with you, alas, BT is BT, unreasonable. Going to the small pavilion in the middle of the medicine garden, Ecchi took out 2 loams from the storage bag. Now Ecchi can be careful. Each bag is tied tightly. There is no way. This is not a thief. No one knows if there is a thief in the rest of the soil. Maybe it is not one, it is a nest. Ecchi laid down the 2-colored loam of yellow soil, and then buried the roots of sage and wood thorns in the loam, and soon, something pleasant happened. I saw that the Millennium Salix SP grows slowly. Generally, it grows slowly in the millennium. It no longer develops to a large scale, but grows up to the old age. You can see that under the action of the strong aura of the soil, the salival leaves are becoming thicker and thicker, and the meridians on the leaf surface have also become thick and old. Finally, some meridians have begun to emit a faint red-purple color. At the same time, on the edge of the plant, like the stars and moons, 3 tender small buds emerged from the surrounding soil, quickly sprouting, unfolding, and extending slender branches. Compared with the pleasant growth of sage grass, the growth rate of wood thorns next to it is much slower. It seems that this thing is not so easy to grow. When the 3 small plants of sage grass grow into seedlings, the wood thorns will have one. A small pointed bud emerged from the soil. I thought it was useless. Ecchi breathed a sigh of relief, and suddenly thought of something, quickly got up, and found a thin, straight stick. Wood thorns are vines, need to grow around things, how can this be forgotten? Seeing that both sides were growing, Ecchi was also idle for a while, but he didn't do anything else, but watched the growth of that little life. Sometimes watching this little tree of life grow into a faint sense of happiness, watching it take root, sprout, grow up, blossom, and Ecchi is very happy, although he has done nothing. Watching the sedge popping open the flower. Ecchi suddenly thought that the aura contained in this soil is so strong. Why can't he absorb the aura in this soil? If he can succeed, it must be many times faster than drawing the aura from the air. Ecchi took out a pile of soil, put it in his hand, and squeezed it as plasticine. Although I can feel the rich aura in the soil, how can I transfer it to the monk's body? This is definitely a difficult problem. There are many kinds of spirits, grasses, and spirits in the Kangnan continent. If everyone can directly draw aura from them, it is too easy to cultivate immortals. Therefore, generally, appropriate spirit grass is used to make elixir, which plays a little auxiliary role for monks. There is never a monk who can directly draw the aura from it. Yekong has no idea how much time has passed. When I look up again, I find that the wormwood has grown into scale, and the middle book, the stems and leaves of the plant have already appeared purple-red. Not only the stems and leaves, but even the charming red flower in the middle of it has grown up. And around this plant, circle by circle, it has grown dozens of strains. It seems that each has a grade of 1,000 years. On the other side, the wood thorns are climbing very high. Like the plant in the medicine garden, it also has 3 branches sticking out. It follows the wooden stick in the middle and spirals up. The leaves are sparse and the stems are strong. This strain on Xiang is much thicker. The plant grown in the medicine garden is only a few hundred years old, but it is as thick as an egg, and the one that was cultivated on the soil can no longer hold a thick hand. Yekongmen has a happy face. Although I did not expect to turn Xiang's aura into my own method, the magic of Xiang's cultivation of spiritual grass is really powerful. No wonder it is a treasure sought by everyone in the Kangnan mainland. What millennial elixir, Wan Nian Ling Cao. Just when Yekong was happy, he suddenly frowned, and then heard a loud noise, and the restraint outside the medicine garden shuddered. Hearing this sudden loud noise, Yekong started to think what was happening in the alchemy furnace, but soon he understood that someone was attacking the prohibition of the medicine garden. Attacking Cao Muking's ancestors' small medicine garden in Yunfuzong, is this someone crazy? Yekong didn't dare to delay too much, quickly pulled out all the spirit grass, put it in the storage bag, and put the soil away. As soon as he was packing things up, attacks from outside became more frequent, and the sound of bangs was endless, but it is clear that the forbidden array of this medicine garden is still very powerful. Such an attack will not cause any serious trouble. Yekong picked up his stuff and saw if there were any omissions. Then he walked to the entrance of the medicine garden to see who was so bold. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 304. 303 Double-headed green scale python. Out of the ban of the small drug garden, Yekong was startled. He always thought that it was a person who attacked the ban, but who knew it was a 2-headed snake, which was 3 stories high, and his head was as big as a room. Spitting the red letter, his eyes narrowed, and he stared at the small medicine garden. Yekong did not dare to stay longer, and quickly threw out the golden shield and broadsword, jumped up, and flew up high. Bang, there was another loud noise, and the snake's head hit the formation of the small medicine garden again. Where is the snake from Yunfuzong who is full of food? Why did you hit my small pharmacy? Yekong Fi was in midair, looked around, and found that there were already a lot of monks who heard the movement. Suspended in the air. NND, serpent, if I was outside, I would have killed you already. Yekong Kong was annoyed. Other things were small, the key is that he still has a furnace of elixir in Dongfu. Alchemy is not afraid, but the fire is the cold in Kangbei, as well as water fire gourd, are things that cannot be seen. If it was outside, Yekong had already taken out Jing Guanjiao and gave the snake a long time. Yekong can see that although this big snake is huge, its strength is also average, which is equivalent to the monk's late-stage cultivation. He definitely can't hold back Jing Guanjiao. However, in this Yunfuzong, Yekong didn't dare to reveal his strength. What depressed him most was that there were a lot of monks around him who looked coldly and didn't take any shots. Well, now that you guys are watching the show, I'm going to see the brother, too. Anyway, this snake's late cultivation practice is trying to break the formation, which is purely a dream. Yekong stood on the golden sword, stood with his hands on his back, and looked coldly at the snake hitting the ground. After watching for a while, Yekong also saw a little doorway. Although this big snake has two heads, the one that can strike the matrix is always one head, and the other head is watching side by side with amusement. The pair of small eyes watched the monks flying back and forth. The snake's eyes were full of pride, as if they were dismissive of these monks. It seems that even two heads that grow on one body are different, one smart, and one stupid. Yekong was muttering there, and he saw a Changhong flying suddenly in the air, which was very fast, and it was a blink of an eye. Then, an old man in white stood in the air, and the breeze swung the old man's sleeve back and forth. His chest was undulating. The futuristic 9 golden clouds even made him look extraordinary. Seeing Cao Guang's appearance, the disciples saluted one after another. Yekong Shen was afraid to be seen by the old man, and quickly shrank to many monks. I heard those disciples whispering, "In the end it is the ancestor of Yuanying. How fast it will be in a blink of an eye, so fast without having to teleport. Yeah, look at the ancestor of Cao Guang, the momentum, the style, can be described as heroic and vigorous. Although the two whispered, the strength of Yuanying's ancestors could still be clearly heard. Cao Guang's eyes like an electric man suddenly glanced over. The two little monks were intentional. When they saw the flattery hit, they both hurled their chests. Standing upright, Ba Wang Yuanying ancestor took a closer look. However, Cao Guang's eyes stopped between the two, and his eyes flashed with surprise. Yekong knew that he had been found, and scolded in his heart, "These two horse suckers. Cao Guang saw you can grow a piece of meat at a glance. NND, what do you guys say? Majestic, I am. How old is the old guy? Isn't this a joke with you?" Yekong was defamating in the abdomen, and then saw Cao Guang's ancestor suddenly flashing a beautiful woman. Although Yekong could not see her cultivation, she still felt that her strength was extraordinary, and she was almost close to Cao Guang's ancestor. Fujun, this pair of green-headed pythons is not reassured that the cultivation is ready to break through. Why did it show power today and rush out to attack the ban of the drug garden? That beautiful woman turned out to be Cao Guang's twin brother Lu Xianxian. The couple were both Yuanying ancestor. It seems that Yun Fuzong is also a tiger, and a dragon. However, from Lu Qinqin's words, Yekong also understood that the two-headed snake was the pet of Cao Guangyang. No wonder those disciples did not kill the snake. Your ancestors are stubborn. Since it is your pet, you take care of it. Don't you know that pets are responsible for hurting people? Cao Guang didn't quite understand what happened to the two-headed green-scale python, but he quickly hit a tactic against the python. The snake was also obedient, and soon he slapped his head and swam to Cao Guang's feet. At this time, Cao Muking also rushed over and saw the scene in front of her. She couldn't help asking, "Uncle Guang, what is going on here?" Cao Guang wondered, "I thought that this pair of green-headed pythons would stop breaking through in search of something treasure or something tempting, but now it doesn't look like. If so, double-headed green the scale python should be very excited, but why did I come back with a simple trick?" Ye hollowed out, "Stupid. I can't understand it. It's not that the treasure has been stolen by Lao Tzu, and the snake cannot sense it, so it's natural. Now it seems that the flower of the wormwood is still very attractive to the snake, can be felt even through a layer of prohibition." Cao Muking was depressed. Why don't these two-headed pythons attack other people's medicine gardens? They have to fight my medicine gardens. Fortunately, it only builds its strength in the later period. Otherwise, the ban on our medicine gardens will be broken and it will have to be restarted. Layout. Why the double-headed green scale python is going to attack the ban of your pharmacy, Then you have to ask the person who showed you the pharmacy. Cao Guang twisted his beard and stared at Ye Kong. Sure enough, it was a few hundred-year-old fairies, so that I could guess me. His ancestors seemed to be stubborn. Along with Cao Guang's sight, Cao Muking also saw the black cricket. He was teased by him yesterday, and the girl he saw was also soaked by him. Cao Muking, a lesbian, hated his teeth for Heiyu. Li Hiza. Come here, Cao Muking shouted at Ye Kong with her hips folded. Ye Kong was helpless, stepping on the golden shield broadsword and slowly flying past. A whisper whispered from behind, this kid is going to be unlucky, and no one can mess with her if you mess up. Maybe I have to go to sleep with Golden Retriever again. But this boy seems to be a little bit upset. You see him stepping on it, it's a top-grade magic weapon. Cao Guang certainly noticed this, and he was wondering in his heart, what exactly is this guy going to do? If it is a spy sent by another martial art, then it is not necessary to behave so arrogantly. If it is just an ordinary outsider disciple, where does he get top-grade magical instruments, and his 10-month offering of spiritual stones can afford this stuff? Also, what is his relationship with the Yi family firm? Meet Grandpa, Grandma, and Grandpa. Ye Kong flew over to salute. Oh, this little monk is a little bit interesting. Lu Xianxia couldn't help laughing, and the general practitioners of gas gathering all called their ancestors, and it was the first time someone called her grandma. Cao Guang also smiled slightly and said, Li Hiza, we meet again. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 305. 304 Syringa Flowers. Since Cao Guang had met before, he waited for Ye Kong's explanation. Ye Kong Gong said, Master Ziu, you are a new disciple who joined Yunfuzong 2 months ago, so you do know Master Ziu, and you have sinned before, so please ask Master Ziu a lot, do practice with me. Minor revisions. Cao Muking heard their conversation and was puzzled. I didn't expect that Cao Guang and this Li Hizi had even met, and it seemed that Li Hizi had offended Cao Guang. It was really amazing. This Li Hizi was crazy, even if he did know Cao Guang see the 9 clouds on his chest. After all, Li Hizi is a disciple of her Sihatang and the guard of her medicine garden, so Cao Muking hurriedly said, Uncle Guang, this Li Hizi was born as a casual student, and learned a bad habit outside. Even me, he was so angry that he asked Uncle Guang to punish him. Ye Kong was depressed. I didn't do anything in the small medicine garden. Somehow he hit me with a snake. Why punish me? Who did I provoke? Cao Guang couldn't punish Ye Kong, waved his hand, and asked, Li Hizi, I asked you, in the past, you lived outside, so is it, have a character? Cao Guang originally wanted to say arrogance, but think about the large number of onlookers around, it is not good to let everyone think about it. Ye Kong knew the meaning of Old Man Cao. Old Man Cao said, you are so arrogant in casual repair, why haven't you been killed? Ye Kong laughed, Master Grandpa, when Xianxia did casual training, but the predecessors met were as forgiving as Master Ziu, and he did not care about Xianxia. Cao Guang smiled, which is tolerant, is really scared by your arrogance. I thought you have any background. It seems that arrogance are good to a certain extent, at least it scares others from daring to see the money, which is a way to protect themselves. You are also a solution. The old man doesn't blame you. Ye Kong quickly rushed to the pole, thanks to my ancestors for their understanding, casual repairs are very difficult. Cao Guang looked at the top-level instruments under his feet and smiled, yeah, it's very difficult. Ye Kong's old face blushed. His ancestors were afraid of being attacked by the 2-headed snake at that time, so he used the faster Jindun broadsword, but it became a flaw. This top-grade instrument was accidentally picked up by a disciple. It may be something lost by a senior monk. Cao Mooking raised her lips with a touch of irony, picked it up, I haven't picked it up for such a big life, and you are too unprofessional. Cao Guang also knew that the boy wouldn't tell the truth, nor would he pursue it. He asked, that's all for now. I hope you can quit the bad habits of the other side and respect the elders in the ancestor. Yes, yes, Yekong nodded quickly. Cao Guang said again, then why would you explain why the double-headed green scale python attacked the medicine garden you guarded? How do I know why it is attacking? Why don't you ask it? Yekong scratched his head. Of course, he couldn't tell the story about the wormwood. More importantly, there was a furnace of elixir in his cave house. Seeing Yekong's hair bun, Cao Mooking sighed coldly. Master Ziu asked, come quickly from the real road. What kind of haul are you doing in the medicine garden? Yekong smiled bitterly, and his heart was okay. They didn't rush into the small medicine garden to take a look, otherwise it would be dangerous. Master Ziu, in fact, the disciples don't know what happened. The disciples are meditating honestly in the medicine garden, and the serpent is here. Should the disciples go back and see first, Yekong said, others are embarrassed to go and have a look. If they block their mouths, he can go back to the medicine garden to prepare. Then you go, hurry up. Lu Xianxia thought this minor repair was very interesting, so she agreed to speak first. The disciples obeyed. Yekong was overjoyed, and drove his flying sword back to the medicine garden. After entering the medicine garden, Yekong was relieved, but how to return? It's really impossible, so I collected the Dan furnace in Dongfu. If the Dan furnace is collected now, the 2 elixirs there will be completely finished. It is a pity to waste so much time and energy. However, it is really dangerous to put the Dan furnace there. If it is not found in the small medicine garden, Cao Guang and others will probably enter Dongfu. It seems only wasteful. Yekong thought only that. However, when walking towards Dongfu, a flower tree suddenly entered Yekong's sight. The nameless flower tree is a high-level spiritual tree growing with wood thorns. Yekong didn't know what it was, but at this moment, Yekong had an idea. Outside the medicine garden, everyone was flying in midair, and the double-headed python on the ground also left downstream of Cao Guang's order. Cao Guang asked Cao Mooking, is Li Heza saying the truth? Cao Mooking replied, he did join Yun Fuzong 2 months ago, because the spiritual roots are poor and he does not have a charm. Cao Guang's eyes narrowed and he interrupted, what spiritual root is he? Jin Mu Huo Tu for spirits. Cao Mooking could see clearly at that time. Oh, Cao Guang stroked his beard, nodding in disappointment. You continue. So he was assigned to our outer hall, and the niece saw that he was a farmer, and he asked me to guard the medicine garden. This Li Heza's guard was very serious. For 2 months, he had not even the lowest level spirit grass. One died. The niece thought he had found a good person, but he didn't care about him. Who knew that this guy had been out for 4 days just a few days ago, and came back yesterday with Cao Junfan and others to make trouble. When Cao Guang heard it, his eyes blinked, and he said, when did this boy and his grandson play together? If that's the case, Jun Fengken reconnaissance. As they were talking, they saw the ban on the pharmacy opened. Li Heza stepped out and shouted from a distance. Oh, what kind of flower is that? Cao Guang was a little surprised, and said, isn't it really this blackbird? Yekong scratched. The disciples are superficial and don't know. Cao Guang looked at Cao Mooking again, and saw that her face was red and her head was lowered. Cao Guang waved his hand. Let's go and see. Followed by Cao Mooking, he stared at Yekong fiercely, and whispered, do not bloom early or bloom later. Do nt hurry to notify me when you open. Yekong is depressed. What kind of person? You should be happy to bloom, it is really neurotic. Yekong soon understood that it was no wonder that Cao Mooking was unhappy and dared to love that the flower tree was not an ordinary tree, and the flowers were not ordinary flowers. Cao Guang was shocked. This is the syringa, very rare. It turned out to be a flower, no wonder that Cao Muking was unhappy. It is estimated that this woman did not want to do good deeds, but now she was found to be angry and angry. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 306. 350 To save the elixir. Cao Muking flushed and said quickly, Uncle Guang, it turned out to be an evil flower. I knew it was this kind of flower, and I stopped planting it at the beginning. When the table stands Tori. Yekong despised Cao Muking fiercely and stepped forward, Master Zhou, since this flower is so evil, it is better for the disciples to destroy it, so as not to poison the entire clan and harm the sisters. Cao Mu was so emotional that she bit her silver teeth so loudly that she rushed to tear the guy up. How could she choose this person to see the medicine garden? Fortunately, Cao Guang didn't think so, and he laughed, this flower has no right or wrong. Some people only use it. If it is an evil person, even if it is a righteous thing, he will also use it to do bad things. More Ba Luahua is also a rare treasure. It would be a pity if it was destroyed. Cao Muking heard her heart happy, glanced at Yekong proudly, and said, Uncle Guang is right. However, Cao Muking was not happy for a long time, so he listened to Cao Guang and said, anyway, this Luoluahua is really too overbearing. Muking, it is not convenient for a woman to keep this flower, and it is not good to pass it on. Hi, it is really high. This ancestor of Cao Guang is also an expert. After a few words, he flew away the flowers. The most despicable thing is that he didn't say anything at all, but waited for Cao Muking to come to the door. Cao Muking had no choice but to say at the moment, then Uncle Guang will collect the flowers and keep them properly. Cao Guang laughed and waved his big sleeve, and the blooming syringa flower fell off and flew into his sleeve without any trace. My niece, this thing is really useless in your place, it is used for women. If there is no man to help, it will be a big thing, it might as well give Uncle Guang, I have some use. Cao Guang laughed again, it was his twin monk Lu Xianxian who was flushed with shame, and took a hard look at Cao Guang, saying, I'm not dead. Since the problem was found out, Cao Guang left with Lu Xianxian. Cao Muking didn't want to stay longer. Mei Mei glared at Yekong, left her hand, and threw down a sentence, remember to notify me if there is any situation. When they were all gone, Yekong was completely relieved. Finally I saved the 2 pills. However, Cao Guang wasn't so foolish. When he returned to his cave house, he asked, MRS, how credible are you about this Li He's statement? Lu Qianqian thought about it, half. Cao Guang nodded, took out the syringa flower, and looked at it for a while before saying, it's strange, why is the double-headed green scale python interested in this flower? Lu Qianqian laughed, it's hard to say. The python is also a female. You have to ask why your niece planted this kind of flower. Cao Guang smiled bitterly. My niece also knows that I can't help it. Let her play tricks. Maybe someday a man will make her honest, Cao Guang said again, although Cha understand the truth of the matter, but I still think that Li Hizi is not an ordinary person, there must be a secret behind it. Lu Qianqian said, these disciples who want to come to my school to learn tricks in the past few years have found a lot of disciples, and it is not easy to turn their backs on those martial arts, so let Li Hizi be a disciple, he can't learn anything. Cao Guang still shook his head. It's not that simple, since he has a good relationship with Junfan, let Junfan touch his bottom. Okay, I'll let Junfan come over. Lu Qianqian raised her hand to take out the note and just wanted to send it, but Cao Guang held her free wrist. Ma'am, that's not a rush, this syringa is so fragrant, and my lady smells it. Fujun, how good or bad you are, it will be done soon. Monk, what day and night? Grandchildren are so big. For our 800-year birthday, we are still very young. Oh, husband, don't worry, let me smell the flowers first, and you smell the flowers. Haha, this flower is a good thing, we haven't repaired it for a long time. The next day Yunfuzong, in a cave house, two young girls were mumbling together. Wu Yi, did you wear the crystal clear silk socks? Huang Zixuan asked in a low voice. Zhang Wei smiled mysteriously, looked around, and then pulled the red skirt, exposing a pair of beautiful moving legs. The calf was tightly wrapped in the stockings that Ye Kong sent her. The socks exuded a faint light, and even Huang Zixuan's eyes were straight. It's so pretty. I didn't expect a woman's legs to be so touching. Huang Zixuan was surprised and wanted to reach out and touch it. What? Zhang Wei was so scared that he quickly put down his skirt and cursed with a smile, you are all the same as the female BT, but if you are, I can consider it, haha. Going to you, I just want to see if the socks are slippery. Huang Zixuan sent a white eye and said, would you like me or not? I don't have that hobby. Zhang Wei laughed, I have that hobby. After that, a pair of pink hands stretched out and grabbed. You when I'm afraid of you. Huang Zixuan did not show weakness, and giggled in return to a milk grabber. A pair of yin-yans were laughing and laughing together, and they were looking for mysterious places to catch them. If a man repaired them, he would definitely see a nosebleed. However, no man has come here. A woman came. It looks like the age of the little woman, but her frown can feel the wind and frost she experienced, and her tall figure is fully mature and charming. Carefully look, there is still a bit of imagination with that female BTCAO looking. What are you two bad girls doing early in the morning? Although Xiu was reprimanding, there was indescribable kindness in the eyes of the two women. Hearing the female nun, the two girls stopped immediately, stood in a regular manner, and respectfully called out, Master. This female amendment is Cao Muse, her master. Cao Muse is Cao Mooking's sister, but her temper is the opposite of Cao Mooking. Cao Muser does not like to argue with others, so she is deceived by her sister Cao Mooking. There is no alternative. Cao Muse was gentle to others, and the two apprentices were also bold, reprimanded by the teacher, and made a face at each other. Looking at the two lovely female apprentices, Cao Muse also laughed and scolded. It's a real girl. After saying it, she said, today I received a voice message saying that the Yi family would pay the bill in a few days. By the way, with this batch of goods, you go to see the various charms have not reached the number, if not enough, urged the head brother. Yes, the two girls hurriedly saluted and ran out of Dongfu with a small broken step. As soon as they left Dongfu, the two girls giggled again. Let's see if Li Heza can buy wood thorns. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 307. 306. Cut. Do you want to see your pair of crystal clear silk socks? Zhang Wei mercilessly revealed Huang Zixuan's purpose. Huang Zixuan blushed and scolded, you are stupid and you will die. I just want to see my socks, how about it? You are a full man, no, you are a full wife who is hungry. Zhang Wei giggled, hungry mother-in-law, are you hungry? Would you like to find a male nun for you, such as Li Heza, haha. Go to death. Huang Zixuan chased Zhang Wei regardless of his image, but Zhang Wei was well prepared, and he left with a big laugh before he broke out. Suddenly a red shadow and a yellow shadow chased together on the hilltop of Yunfuzong, causing the hungry men to stop and watch, sighing one by one, it was so beautiful, it would be great if you could get one. But among many monks, but a male practitioner turned a blind eye to the beauty in front of him, and his heart was depressed. I really wanted to die. Grandpa didn't know what kind of wind he was pumping. He even asked himself to inquire about the black cricket and make friends with him. Oh my God, you let me die. I was so overcast that he couldn't see anyone. It's better to never see the blackbird. How can you still hold your face up and make it up? Cao Junfen was depressed, but it's hard to say. After all, he was really ashamed of being refined by gas refinery. He never wanted to bring it up or be known, so he had to take on this glorious and arduous task. Of course, Cao Junfen's heart is also lucky. It seems that Grandpa has doubts about the kid. If he can find a way to drive the kid out of Yunfuzong, he will be happy. He will never suffer later. See you forever. It's not that blackbird. Cao Junfen cheered himself up, drove up his weapon, and quickly caught up with the tangled red and yellow figures in front. Ah, it's Sister Zixuan and Sister Wei, so coincidental, Cao Junfen said with a whiff of hair on his forehead. If Huang Zixuan had watched him in the past, he would have felt very handsome, but today he didn't feel anything at all. Yao Yao hummed and turned away. Zhang Wei couldn't ignore it, and Cao Junfen didn't offend her. He also contributed 2,000 spirit stones to her, and even offended her sister Huang Zixuan. So Zhang Wei hurriedly smiled. Yes, what a coincidence, Brother Junfen. Where are you going? Cao Junfen was waiting for these two girls. Where can I find a place to go? He froze for a moment. I just came out and wandered. I want to ask you if the refining materials of the defense weapon have been bought. Here. Zhang Wei shook his head. No. Cao Junfen is overjoyed. If you can invite beautiful women to travel with their arms, it will be great. Maybe you can increase your favorability in the hearts of beautiful women. Then let's go to the Ujia store in Surabaya. There are a lot of materials there. Even if there isn't, we can go to the store in Qingminggu, Cao Junfen hurriedly said. But to his disappointment, Zhang Wei shook his head and said, thank you for your kindness. Li Hiza said that he has a friend who has thousands of years of wood thorns. He has gone to help me find it. Oh, that's the best. Cao Junfen's face remained the same, but his heart was scolding, you are a dead man, you are not bothered, if you are not there, it will do you good. Does Lao Tzu have a grudge against you? Even so, Cao Junfen said, I heard that the brothers Hizi and Yi family are very familiar. You should have the materials to help you. Why don't we go and see him? Zhang Wei felt that Li Hiza should not be urged too much. After only one day's work, Li Hiza did not make a sect. How could it be? Originally, she wanted to go with Huang Zixuan to see if the crystal clear silk socks were made, but because Cao Junfen didn't want to go, she refused. Forget it, just a few days, it shouldn't be so fast. After Wu Yi said, he asked, brother, you seem to have a really good relationship with Brother Hiza. You all know that he and the Yi family are very familiar. The introducer, do auntie know, when do you have such a good relationship? The ghost has a good relationship with him. Cao Junfen blushed and said, the so-called heroes cherish the heroes, and the brothers and sisters admire each other, so this is what I saw. Huang Zixuan interrupted him in a bad mood, brave yourself. Cao Junfen shook his head. Hey Eo, you are the one who killed me. Go to your mother and refuse to be surrounded by infatuation. Don't be afraid of siege, NND, now break out, regret it? Small medicine garden, simple cave house. Through a layer of transparent prohibition, you can immediately feel as if you are in an ice cellar, the cold is pressing, and it can be described as peeing. In the middle of the cold Dongfu, there is a small brass Dan furnace. At this moment, the white cold fire under the Dan furnace is tumbling towards the bottom of the furnace, and around the Dan furnace, there is a white frost and rolling mist. Adhere to the ground, flow to the quartet, look at this room, you can feel like coming to Wonderland. On the brass kiln, there is also a dazzling sigh of qi slowly flowing out into the rolling steaming clouds in the surrounding. The scene may seem magical and spectacular, but you can be in it, but you don't know it is so good. Not far from the brass kiln, there is a small platform slightly above the ground. On the bedding on the platform, a white monk is meditating with eyes closed. The frost from the cold has surrounded his body. The frost is quite cold. A thick layer of frost on the monk's face can prove that the frost has turned his black face into with a white face. His winged sword eyebrows were stained with snow, and the edges of the sword eyebrows on both sides even hung small ice edges. This meditating monk is Ecchi. He is not practicing the 5 Elements Ascension Sutra. The monk cultivates sufficient aura in the first place, and the second place is safe, because the defense ability is much weaker during the practice. Now such a cold space is not suitable for practice. So what is he still doing? In fact, Ecchi is practicing Dafa of Lingwu. The first step of Lingwu and Fa Dafa is to use dozens of rare herbs to make a medicinal solution. The monk soaks the body, allowing the skin to passively absorb the medicinal solution, making it strong and spiritual. However, Ecchi did not go through this step. He felt that this step was not necessary. Soaking with the medicine solution is nothing more than increasing the toughness of the skin and muscles to better adapt to the arrival of the second step. The second step is also simple. To put it bluntly, it is self-new, torture yourself, hit, burn, thunder, cold, all kinds of methods are used to temper the flesh and bones, and gradually increase the intensity. During the quenching, the aura in the body is continuously used to supplement the bones and bones, achieving the dual effects of tempering and nourishing. Some people have to say that those mortal people who practice spiritual martial arts do not have aura, so how can they nourish the muscles and bones? This is actually the biggest difference between ordinary spiritual martial arts and spiritual martial arts. You don't need to worry about the lack of aura when practicing Dafa. Dafa specifically introduces a secret method for absorbing the spiritual power of the spiritual stone. I thought that Zhang Zhao had really spent a lot of spiritual stones when Ma Zali practiced. He doesn't need to think too much. Repeatedly, it strengthens its bones and bones, increases its resistance to blows, cold, fire and electricity. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 308. 3007 out of Dan. Therefore, Ecchi feels that the first step is not necessary. As long as he can resist it, he can directly enter the practice of the second step. Ecchi didn't prepare any medicinal solution at all, so he braced himself and started the cold tempering of his bones. It was a bit frustrating at first, because the cold fire opened halfway, and the low temperature accumulated in the formation, so it became colder and colder, even if Ecchi was a monk. But when he clenched his teeth, he insisted on it. He has always been a stubborn temper who doesn't believe in evil. As long as there is no danger to life, a little pain is nothing. Frostbite at the end of the body is okay, anyway. Young and big are big and big. It's okay to have a lack of spiritual power. I took a bite of spirit wine and added it. Although I had a bit of pain, the effect was still good. It was a long time before, finally, Ecchi, sitting cross-legged, raised an eyebrow, and then his closed eyes opened. As his eyes opened, a thick layer of ice dumplings on his face also crackled and fell, revealing a dark face. It's time for a new pot of elixir to come out of the elixir. Ecchi shook the ice dumplings on his body, his legs shook, and he stood up. The first furnace, the spirit beast Dan, who had worked so hard to keep it, failed. In the following days, Ecchi refined 3 furnaces. The level of his main and auxiliary materials for refining became higher and higher, so that the success rate of later reached 60%. However, the Dan furnace refining, luck is still not very good. The 4 furnaces all failed. Every time he looked at the elixir of refining or refining the paste, Ecchi felt emotion. The refining of the refining was really burning money. However, Ecchi was not discouraged. After all, this was his first alchemy and a high-level spirit beast. How could he easily succeed? And now facing Yekong's brass smelting furnace, it was the fifth smelting smelt. In this smelting room, there were 6 prototypes of the spirit beast Dan, which had been carefully prepared by him. Now it's time to go out. Although Yekong is very calm about success, but who doesn't want his hard work to be rewarded? Even Yekong was not so calm when he was out of Dan. He walked to the brass kiln and watched that the 10% amulet had burned with the last strand left. This magic charm can not only increase the success rate of Dan, but also can indicate the time of Dan. The moment when the magic completely burns out is the best time for Dan, which saves a lot of things for alchemists. Waiting for the last ray of amulet to burn, Yekong's heart was also in a hurry. Similarly, Dao was also very nervous. She knew that Yekong had been working hard for half a month, all for her. "My son, what will happen this time?" Dao finally couldn't help asking. Yekong replied, "Of course it can be done. Have confidence in your son." Yekong said that he had 100-fold confidence, but Dao still couldn't help yelling, "Every time I say this, I fail every time." Even the black-faced Yekong couldn't help but blush and anger. "What do you know? Failure is a successful mother. Mommy has come many times, can her daughter not come?" Dao asked, "Why is it a daughter, and if it is a son?" "Same rejection, son will not be yours." "Oh, the knowledge here is too deep, you don't understand, don't ask." Dao snorted, "My son is really lame, so I say so every time I can't come back." Yekong ignored her and watched that Zhang Lingfu had burned to the last line, and the time for Dan immediately came. Yekong was ready for failure, but couldn't help but feel nervous. Time is up. As soon as Yekong raised his hand and hit the tactics, the water and fire gourd immediately stopped emitting cold fire, and the cold in the air immediately eased a lot. Yekong now knows the benefits of the Kangbei cold fire. Before in Linjiao Mountain, he saw a lot of ice cubes at the alchemy site to cool down the Dan furnace. The cold fire will not be used for more. One furnace of elixir is finished, and then the next furnace is refined. There is nothing at all. The cold was stopped, and he was not in a hurry to open the lid of the Dan furnace to keep the elixir in the furnace for a moment. No one taught him this. This is his trick on using the microwave oven on Earth, keeping the food more delicious. After a while, Dao couldn't help but, with her urging, Yekong waved his hand, and the brass stove lid opened in response. The Dan furnace just opened, the white gas tumbling inside, slowly overflowing from the furnace mouth, slowly flowing down the stove with carved dragons and phoenixes, and merged into the white smoke on the ground. At the same time, a strong burst of brain the taste spread out. The smell is not good, but the spirit beast likes it. Yekong is not the first to smell it, but in the past, it was either mixed with a paste taste or had a green taste. But this time, it was pure, and it was only the taste of brainwashing. "There is a door," Yezhong welcomed him quickly, waving his hands back and forth, quickly dispersing the white mist. "I saw 6 blue-gray, elixir like elixir, lying quietly in the center of the Dan furnace." "Yeah. Success." Yekong was ecstatic, with 2 V-shaped hands, and even held his lower abdomen, doing a few signature moves of Mike Jackson. "My son's moves are nasty," Dao shouted, and shouted again, "Hurry me out." When Dao flew out, she surrounded the Dan furnace and smelled the smell. She was also ecstatic. "My son, you are too good, you are so good, you." Dao is incoherent. Of course, this does not affect her to get a taste first. How? "What about the taste?" Yekong asked quickly. Dao was like a drug addict, closed his longan, raised his faucet, and refreshed for a while. Then he opened his eyes and said, "That's the taste, it's too authentic." "Of course, it doesn't depend on who made it." Yekong satisfied his vanity, looked at Dao, Zindao, and, if a younger sister must have a hug, but looking at the mighty dragon body, empty still dispelled thoughts. "My son, you are so amazing. Alchemy is also so amazing. It would be nice if the mother and sister were here. Deo is really a good boy. When he has something good, he thinks of his loved ones. Yekong did not know where the mother dragon and Xiao had gone. The formation of Qingming was destroyed, and the connection with that formation was completely broken. Yekong did not know where the formation space was and how to reach it. I don't know if Deo can still see her relatives. Deo, rest assured, one day I will help you find them. Yekong caressed Deo's head, and the crystal-like dragon head leaned gently against Yekong's chest. Well, now that you have taken the elixir, then go into the spirit beast circle and practice well. There is no important thing I will not call you, and I will get it when the medicine is finished. Kong then collected the remaining 5 high-level spirit beasts. This elixir can be administered for 1 month, there are 6, and there is no need to worry about half a year. Xiegong's Deo swept a few sweeps of Yekong's face with a dragon's beard, making Yekong's face itchy, and Deo giggled and returned to the spirit beast circle. It's a little girl's heart. Yekong wiped his face and quickly gathered up the Denluo gourd. To the reader. Now 150 names are waiting. Don't worry, you can make a cameo and take your time. Recommend Prince's new book Phantom of the Other World. Strength author strength book, worth reading. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 309. Group 308 visit. It has been delayed for half a month. Seeing that there is still 1 month to go to Zhongnei's competition, we must quickly prepare materials for Zhang Wei, and we must not delay her major events. In fact, even if alchemy failed today, Yekong was ready to go out. Since he promised others, Yekong would do it. He didn't do it because he had no vacation. Last time I went out for 5 days and ran out of last month's holiday, and this month has just begun, so he has another holiday. Of course, the wood thorns are actually in his storage bag and can be given to Zhang Wei at any time. But that would leave doubts, and a person with an interest would find out that the kid didn't make a case at all. Where can I buy the materials? Be careful to make the Wanyan boat. Yekong doesn't want to cause anything. He only wants to build a base in Yunfuzong and Anshan, and a monk builds a base to be a true immortal. There will be the first honorable title, real person. Real people, scattered people, ancestors, great monks, and lords. These titles are used in chaos among the Kangnan continents, but the only thing that is certain is that real people refer to the monks in the base period. Yekong took things away, opened up the spiritual practice, and the cold misty auras suddenly flashed out. The temperature was still very low. Even the entire temperature in the small medicine garden dropped by a few degrees. Yekong packed up and was about to go out, but met Zhang Wei and others outside the medicine garden. Compared with last time, this time there are more people, not only Zhang Wei and Huang Zixuan, but also Cao Junfan, even Zhang Wulin and Li Ruo who haven't seen each other for a long time. Why are you all here, with such a neat lineup? Yekong thought that something had happened. Why, not welcome. Zhang Wulin took hold of Yekong's shoulders for a moment, and it seemed that this guy was nourished by love and walked away. How dare you not welcome, not to mention Yun Fuzong's most promising disciple, Uncle Junfan. Yekong haha smiled, also relaxed his arm, and embraced Cao Junfan's shoulder. Cao Junfan was scared by Yekong's enthusiasm. He quickly waved his hands and dared not to dare. He was so embarrassed that he shrugged his shoulders, and he did not dare to refuse. From a distance, the 3 men were standing side by side as if they were brothers. Only Cao Junfan was bitter in his heart, and his heart said that he should never be overcast any more today. With so many people here, Ye was not in a hurry to go out anymore, opened the ban and welcomed everyone in. Did not enter Dongfu. 3 men and 3 women sat in the small medicine kiosk in the middle of the medicine garden. Everyone can't just sit still. Yekong patted the storage bag and took out the spirit fruit searched at the last auction, and took out the spirit wine, but it was also rich. Although these spiritual fruits are not very valuable, there are many rare things among them. For example, one of them is two old meat, which is a plant that is produced on the edge of the floodland. When you eat it, it has a scent of meat. After marinating, it will have a light salty taste, and then there will be a touch of sweetness. Yekong thinks this thing looks like ham sausage. Although this thing is produced in the flood, it is easy to dig. A large piece is a few thousand pounds. There is no Reiki for the immortal, so it can only be reduced to wine. Of course, even if it is not worth it, it is very rare. There are also iceberries from the north, a rare fruit. Men don't pay much attention to these, but girls like it very much. Huang Zixuan is holding an iced berry in one hand while holding the dry jerky. I can't think of the Black brothers preparing so many delicious foods. I haven't eaten too much jerky meat for years as a real human being. We have to hold many, not as exaggerated as Sister Chili and Sister Cucumber, she just pinched with the two old meat jerky, eat slowly. Yekong already knew that she and Zhang Wulin were hooked up to commit adultery, so he laughed. Sister-in-law, do you say I will call you sister-in-law or uncle in the future? Li Ruo laughed with embarrassment, but Zhang Wulin said, hey, since you want to call uncle, then please, just call me uncle by the way. Li Ruo also said, this is what you asked to take the initiative to take. We are also very kind. Yekong gritted his teeth and cut his teeth. At this moment, Huang Zixuan swallowed the remaining Tai Sui jerky, and asked indistinctly, hey, where are all these things from you? Although it is not worthwhile, it is rare to see them outside. Not many sides. Yekong didn't answer. Cao Junfan spoke, sister, you don't know about it, the brothers of the Blacks have a good relationship with the senior director of the Yi family firm. It doesn't matter if you want to eat two old meat for dinner. After Cao Junfan said, he was so proud of himself, hey, Yin, who won't? Li Hizi, go and find them jerky everywhere. That's true. I'll bring you some next time. Yekong doesn't matter. He really wants to take a 3,000-year-old spirit grass. Is this too old meat jerky packed in sacks? However, the speaker did not intend to listen. Zhang Wulin heard the words, his eyes flashed, as if thinking of something. But in an instant, his face returned to normal, and no one felt anything. After a few chats, everyone talked about the topic, and they dared to fall in love by chance. First of all, let us talk about Zhang Wulin. He has been bitter during this time. Cao Muking could nt get his sister, and he paid special attention to Zhang Wulin. His daily workload was twice that of other people. Fortunately, Zhang Wulin used to be at home and was able to complete the task. Although he was exhausted every day at the rune workshop, but he forged a deep comrade-in-arms relationship with Li Ruo, and eventually developed into a situation beyond control. Already, with the help of this real person, Zhang Wulin finally managed to escape from the prison, and was accepted as a personal disciple by a monk Jidan. He also escaped from the outer hall and entered the inner hall. Looking at the three clouds on Zhang Wulin's chest, Yekong felt deeply, it's different to have a free internal helper, isn't it? One step up. Zhang Wulin blushed and said, I'm not going through the back door. They are the technique of fancy paper for me. Speaking of rune papers, Yekong wanted to inquire about the next high-level rune papers, but there were many people present, and Yekong was not convenient to ask. In the end, he resisted and asked later. If one knew that he would already make high-level magic charms, Quenyun Runzong would be shocked. Out of the hall, I have time now, and I can often talk to you in the future, Zhang Wulin said with a smile. You should practice it honestly. Yekong said the truth. Xiu Jianglin cannot keep up with Li Ruo. This is not much in the cultivation of immortals. If you want to last, you must redouble your efforts to cultivate. After Yekong finished speaking, he found the straightforward point he said, and hurriedly said, you all have to work hard to cultivate, you are all Yun Fuzong's future, As for my poorly qualified outsider disciple, I don't care anymore. It's nothing. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 310. 309 Arms travel together. Zhang Wei immediately retorted, "Hey, how can you say that? Your qualifications are not too bad. My elder brother and I met you at Wuan River, and you only refined 60% of the gas. It was only 3 months before you reached with the 7 layers of gas refining. As long as you practice hard, building the foundation is not that difficult. Yahalo Road, 3 months a layer, is a little too fast. But in fact, you do NT know. If I had NT been practicing Lingua for half a month, otherwise I would already have 8 layers of gas." Ye Kongqing was fortunate that he hadn't risen. He didn't want to be so high profile. He wanted to be low-key, and he didn't want to be noticed. But is his personality so low-key? After Zhang Wei finished speaking, Cao Junfen was also shocked. He didn't expect the 4 roots of Li Hizi. The practice speed was quite fast, and he broke through 1 layer in 3 months. Well, finally inquired about something. Cao Junfen quickly interjected and said, "Yeah, brother Li, don't be indifferent. Your practice is fast, although you are now a Yundi disciple. I want to be absorbed into the inner court soon. Or, let me talk to my grandpa." "No need," Yakong quickly refused. To be honest, he thinks the situation is very good. Although Cao Muking is BT, he can hardly come to the medicine garden, almost regardless of Yakong. Yakong just happened to be so happy. He had too many secrets on his body and couldn't hold his temper, so now it's good to hide in the small medicine garden alone. "Hey, it's okay, it's easy to talk, my grandpa appreciates you very much," Cao Junfen said warmly. "Yeah, you don't need to be a handyman when you go to the inner hall, and you don't have to be oppressed by the BT woman," Huang Zixuan also advised. Lao Tzu wished to be bullied by that woman, and then oppressed by her. It's really hard for her to refuse this kindness. Yakong thought about it and said, "Actually, I also want to be accepted as an autobiography disciple by that ancestor and enter the inner hall to make everyone respect, but I don't want others to say that I have opened the back door to enter the inner hall. Regardless of the inner hall and the outer hall, we must be straightforward. Just like Brother Wu Lin, he can rightfully say that I entered the inner hall because of the technique of making runes. So, I have to go to the inner hall with my ability, instead of relying on my friends to open the back door to find my way. If you can look at me and you think that I can indeed enter the inner hall with my own ability, then you don't need to help. Just look at it, and it would be better if you could give some applause and encouragement." What Li Hizi said was that he was powerful and loud. Everyone was embarrassed to say anything more about help, but they all praised him for being a man and being brave. Yekonfen was a sweat on his forehead. Alas, this cow X is blowing so loudly. But when he was relieved, he found that Huang Zixuan and Zhang Wei looked at him differently. In the big watery eyes, the little stars flashed. Alas, there is no way. People are attractive because they are different. Buffalo X can make little girls excited. It's really charming. If Cao Junfen knew his thoughts, he would definitely spit up, "You black scum, you have the color of fart." After chatting for a while, until no one talked about it anymore, Yekonke said, "Actually, I was just going to go out. I went to my friend to buy the wood thorns for martial arts, and the crystal clear silk socks." When he said this, everyone would be dispersed. Zhang Wulin and Li Ruo returned to the inner court. Cao Junfen hurried away, for fear of staying and giving the boy a yin, while Huang Zixuan and Zhang Wei were not polite. Divided all the fruit on the table, and it is also called, "Bring master a taste." When Yekong came to Zongmen's entrance to register and went out, he found that outside the Zongmen's gate, A red-haired Qianying was already waiting. You are? Ye Kong asked in doubt. I'm going to see where you bought the wood thorns, and I don't believe you have acquaintances in Surabaya city. Zhang Wei carried his hands on his back and looked like a young girl next door. Isn't it the Yi family firm? Didn't Cao Junfan have said it all? Ye Kong didn't want to bring Zhang Wei. His wood thorns weren't originally bought. However, Ye Kong's refusal was obviously useless. Zhang Wei giggled and hugged Ye Kong's arm. Hey, you take me there. I haven't been out in Zhongli for a long time. Feeling the two squishes of squeezing, Ye Kong was not good at rejecting it. The softness was really powerful for men. He had to nod his head. All right, but listen to me after going out. Zhang Wei of course nodded quickly, like a chicken pecking rice. When the two were flying with the magic weapon, Ye Kong asked again, you are going to Surabaya city with me? Why not say it in the medicine garden? Zhang Wei blushed and said, if he said at that time, Huang Zixuan must also follow. Ye Kong immediately understood, and smiled, it turns out you still have to be careful. Zhang Wei's face turned redder, and he hurriedly said, it's not what you think, the goods that the Yi family had asked for suddenly doubled last time. NovelMTL.com. If I and Zixuan leave together, Master will not agree. Ye Kong nodded. It turned out to be this way, thinking that Chili fancied himself and wanted to swim with his arm. Zhang Wei is also a clever ghost. Of course, guessing Ye Kong's thoughts, he quickly said, Shy, you are not allowed to think about it, all three wives. Ye Kong smiled, you said that there could be several female cultivators. Speaking of Zhang Wei's master, Ye Kong could not help but ask a few more words. When he learned that her master was Cao Mo's, Ye Kong couldn't help smirking. This name has achieved a level, one color and one affection, added up, it is, really enough color. The two flew on the magical instrument, learning the breeze. Even at noon, they didn't feel hot. After a while, they came near the city of Surabaya. Then they lowered the magical instrument and followed the crowd of people who entered the city. Surabaya city. As soon as I entered the city, I met the old monk Huashiba. It seems that the old boy's business is not good. Oh, black brother, you are Yun Fuzong's person. No wonder you are so handsome. You turned out to be a big disciple. Ye Kong didn't wear Yun Fuzong's clothes before entering the city twice. It was the first time that Ye Kong was a disciple of Yun Fuzong, and then Huashiba's eyes fell on Zhang Wei. His old face suddenly smiled like a flower blooming. Is this the brother of the Black Brothers? It really is a fairy-like person, you are the blessing of the Black Brothers. Zhang Wei, who said Huashiba's words, flushed and said, hey, old man, what do you look at? This is my black brother. Yeah, this is my sister, just like the deer, it is closer than the deer. Ye Kong also said. My elder brother is afraid that he will soon become an elder brother. Huashiba immediately gave me a smile that I understood and said, here you are in business. You are busy. The Mad Cultivator. Author, Xianxia. Chapter 311. 300 Help Women Choose Clothes. Brother Hiza, why don't you explain to him clearly? Zhang Wei saw Huashiba's back and stomped his feet twice. Isn't it clear? Besides, people live for themselves and not for others. What do you care about so much? Ye Kong pulled Zhang Wei's arm into the city. Brother Hiza, where shall we go first? Is it to the Yi family firm? Zhang Wei asked as he walked. Ye Kong certainly wouldn't take her to the Yi family. The wood thorns are in his storage bag. Yumening is still waiting for the goods, go on your own, isn't it taken to you? Well, martial art, in fact, my friend's whereabouts are secretive, and he doesn't want to be seen, so it's inconvenient for me to take you home. Looking at Zhang Wei, what seemed to have to say, Ye Kong quickly added another sentence, if he gets angry, maybe he won't let the wood thorns out. Zhang Wei pursed his lips and cursed, little stingy. Yeah, this man is really stingy, too stingy. It's a miser, Glantai. Yekong also scolded this non-existent person. Of course, no one at Glantai knew who it was. Scolding and cursing, but Zhang Wei was unwilling to delay his major events because of this. After all, it is the most important to participate in the martial arts Nuabuat and get Zujiden. But I'm just waiting for you in the street like this. Zhang Wei didn't show up for a long time and wanted to stroll around, but she walked alone, and she was obviously not interested. Thinking of being bored by a person, she hugged Yekong's arm and said, "Hey brother, there are so many bad guys out there, pretty sisters like me, maybe they were abducted by care. Who wants to turn you back? It's really blind." Yekong smiled and said, "Rest assured, I won't let you hang out in the street. I already thought about it, you know, I have another apprentice in Surabaya city." Zhang Wei naturally knew about the apprenticeship. Although Zhang Wulin was pressed by Yekong at that time, he never told his sister. Zhang Wei thought of the little Fu that was said to be very beautiful, and she didn't know why in her heart, and she felt a little displeased. "No, I don't want to go." Zhang Wei had a feeling of meeting the enemy. "Go, it's better than you strolling around the street. Besides, I'm just a while, very fast." Yekong reassured a few words, but did not expect the little pepper to be a bit stubborn, but just refused to go. "Take out his killer, you are afraid that Baijir is more beautiful than you, so you dare not go." Zhang Wei couldn't stand the excitement. He immediately put his hands on his hips and said, "I don't believe it. Mortal women who have given birth to children are more beautiful than me. Just go." "I didn't know it until I saw it." Yekong smiled and walked to Dongju Street. Yekong said again, "Baijir opened a women's clothing factory in the city. Her cutting skills are very good. Yes, you can choose a lot of beautiful clothes there." "Huh, I don't want to be beautiful." Although Zhang Wei was so ruthless, when she came to Baijir's shop, she immediately forgot her ruthlessness. At noontime, there was not much business in the store. Baijir was in a daze. She saw Li Xianxia leading a beautiful woman into the door. She seemed very affectionate, and she couldn't help it. But soon she turned around and thought that she was just a mortal woman. She had already been married, had a child, and it was already pretty good to get the fair master's mercy. Baijir had this kind of thought. Of course, he was enthusiastically welcoming, and deliberately made good. Although Zhang Wei is ancient and weird, she doesn't have so many hearts, and with so many beautiful clothes, she has already seen flowers. "Sister Baijir, these clothes are all made by you, they are all so pretty." Looking at the beautiful clothes full of eyes, Zhang Wei looked at each other and felt that each one was so beautiful. "It's okay, but the clothes are also worn by people. Sister Wu Yi is so good in appearance, she must be beautiful." Baijir stood behind Zhang Wei, said that she was so good, and stared at Yekong deliberately. "Why do you stare at me? I didn't eat her tofu, she ate my tofu." Yekong made an innocent expression and quietly put his hand down and posted it on Baijir's soft stock. "But I like red color." Little Pepper has a different obsession with red color. "It doesn't matter. I can customize it here. Any color you want, as long as you choose the style, measure the size, and pick it up in a few days." Baijir can be fitted, and Ren Yekong rubs on her stock. It was so hot that she didn't speak a trill. Zhang Wei heard that it could be customized, and was even happier. He asked, "That means that I just need to choose a good style first?" Baijir nodded, "Yes." Soon, Zhang Wei chose a palace dress that looked very elegant and noble. "Sister Baijir, I want to choose this one to try." Zhang Wei said, pointing at the palace dress. When Baijir took the long dress, Zhang Wei asked Yekong again, "Hey, how about this one, and express your opinion." "Oh" was called by Zhang Wei, quickly turned his eyes, and wrapped his arms around the skirt twice. This one is not bad, it's just too mature. Although mature and noble, it lacks youthful vitality. I personally don't think it suits you. When Ye Kong said this, Zhang Wei was a little embarrassed. Indeed, if such a dress was worn by her own teacher, it would be beautiful. If she herself, she used her temperament to really be out of touch. However, she just couldn't see the pride of the black egg and couldn't help humming. This is not good, that's not good, you can help me choose if you have the ability. I'm not your boyfriend, and it's not good. Ye Kong sent his eyes directly. He's a, Zhang Wei held Ye Kong's arms again. Do this again? Zhang Wulin, your sister is so bad, she always eats tofu in my arm. If Zhang Wei knows that, she will be angry. Who will eat who tofu? To the reader. Tomorrow will erupt deists will give Xiaoman a crown on top of it.